Good morning and welcome to the Sports Debate Podcast. I'm BA along with James J. Trey Martin and, of course, Jack Hertz. Hope you gentlemen are doing well this morning. We're going to try to do a little twist to the beginning of the show, so we're just not rushing right into the debate questions from the B set of Jack there. Anyway, we're going to talk about the NBA playoffs real quick and the NHL playoffs because those are the two biggest sports events going on at the time. Yesterday, New York Knicks went up 3-0 on the 76ers with a 108-94 victory. And the Spurs also won last night, 115-108 over the Timberwolves. The Spurs have a 2-1 game lead right now. Any thoughts on any of those two games real quick before we go into hockey?
Yeah, darn it, Brian. You seem to be apologizing about talking about the NBA playoffs. You should be celebrating. Your Pistons up 2-0 against the Cavaliers.
I'm not apologizing. I'm just putting out the news.
If they win today, they were up 3-0, and then they have a stranglehold on the series. And then it's absolutely going to look like them against the New York Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals. And it was funny watching the Knicks 6 game on Prime Video. Stan Van Gundy, former coach, who's an analyst and a funny guy too. He's highly entertaining. His daughter lives in New York, and he said his daughter said the people in New York are already planning for parade. The Knicks winning the NBA championship. What's he talking about? I haven't heard one person planning for parade. No, I mean. The Knicks are planning on beating the Sixers. They're hoping to beat the Pistons, Cavalier winner. Maybe they think they will. No one is planning a parade here. So far from any championship talk at this moment. But the Knicks looked great yesterday. Ball hawking on defense. Mikal Bridges getting a degree of vindication with all the assets they gave up to get him in a trade. He's played well. The Sixers strategy of fouling Mitch Robinson worked so. He made 4 of 8. Joel Embiid, great player, but it's apparent now he can only do so much for the Sixers at this point in going forward. And you kind of wonder what Joel Embiid's future is going to be with the Sixers because he's one big chip where they could get a nice return to move forward in the future. But basically the Sixers are cooked. They're not coming back from a 3-0 deficit. And even if Jalen Brunson decided he wasn't playing another game, the Sixers would win 4 in a row. So it's all done. Knicks, maybe they wrap it up 4 straight. It's 50-50 proposition who wins the 4th game. If the Sixers eke out a win in game 4, Knicks will certainly win game 5. Cavaliers home 2-0, down 2-0 against the Pistons. It's do or die, guys. Do or die. And for the Cavaliers, at least, because they're not going to win 4 in a row against Detroit if they lose today. And San Antonio goes up 2-1 against Minnesota. We're not going to say that series is over, guys. But in reality, if Minnesota was going to win the series, they were going to win the pivotal game 3. They really needed that game to go up. Can Minnesota, can they still win it? Yeah, of course they can. They're talented enough. But I don't know about you guys, but if it's San Antonio against OKC, that's mouth-watering. What a mouth-watering series that is. Because I don't know what James is thinking about this, but don't you get the feeling that Wemby's time is here, that it's not a year away? Wemby's time has fully arrived, and if it's fully arrived, it's going to be a mountain for OKC as great as they are to overcome.
Well, just to respond to that comment, Wemby has arrived. I would think that he has arrived, and if not this year, I mean, it will be by the skin of someone's little tooth or whatnot. I would just think, I mean, if they don't win this year, they're definitely winning in the following year. I mean, but they got to do something within the window and the confines of the talent that they have on that team, because eventually, ultimately, you have first and second aprons. You can't keep everybody. You're going to have to let some of those players go. But I mean, they have an exorbitant amount of talent on that team, just like OKC. They're talented too, but I think the common denominator here is having someone like Wemby. I mean, I saw him, man. He has fire to look like he gets in your face. He talks trash. He blocks your shot. I mean, he shakes you up and he talks to everybody. He'll take his hand and put it down to the floor because you're too little. I mean, he's this is a guy that you're like, okay, this is the team. If he's on your team, you love him. And if he's not on your team, you hate him because like he's just gifted, first of all, for that height and to be able to be that skilled everywhere. He can shoot everywhere on the court. It's just unfortunate. And he plays defense. He plays phenomenal defense. So I wouldn't be surprised that this is a guy that wins both MVP candidate and Defensive Player of the Year candidate. I mean, in the same year, because he's just that good. So like Brian likes to say, he's the cheat code. Now, but with that said, I think this is probably the best series right now in the second round. This is the most entertaining one because on the opposite side of the court, Anthony Edwards, regardless of the knee injury, he's showed up. He's been playing. I mean, so what he gave you about 27 points or something like that? I think
32.
He came to play yesterday.
Yeah, he came to play.
13.
Absolutely.
32, 14,
you got
6.
McDaniels is there. And regardless of how dominant Wemby is, Gobert is definitely playing a really good series as well. He's still playing pretty good. He's giving you doubles. And he's doing what he can against him. And so that's all you can ask in that regard. But will they have enough? I just don't think they'll have enough. Vassell, Castle, De'Aaron Fox, they're all playing out of their mind. And I think everybody in the starting lineup was in double digits except one player. So, and you had two guys off the bench in double digits. So it's just going to be tough. But I think that series may go 6 games or so. I think Minnesota may have it in them to win another game, but then it'll be done. Now, going back to New York and Philly, Paul George didn't come to play this game. I mean, he got shut down. 0 points. 0 points. But you have to give credit to New York. I thought this series would be a lot more competitive than it was. The way Philly came back and their resilience was there. They beat Boston, but I don't see. I mean, Jalen Brunson is just like phenomenal, man, and it's just really no stopping him. And you really don't hear much from Karl-Anthony Towns. He doesn't have to be the dominant player. He could just do what he needs to do. But I mean, the dominant player.
Interesting with Mike Brown, assuming the Knicks wrap this series up with the Sixers, which is inevitable that they will. No matter what happens against the Pistons, he's off the hook in this sense because he's taken them at the very least to the Eastern Conference Finals. I shouldn't say against the Pistons, maybe the Cavaliers. I shouldn't count the Cavaliers necessarily out, even though it looks a little bleak right now.
We'll see
he's
today.
taken them to the Eastern Conference Finals, so he hasn't done worse than Thibodeau. So he's kind of off the hook, and the owner, James Dolan, is off the hook with the Thibodeau move.
Well, he's made the adjustments, I would think, because they didn't look good at that. I mean, in the beginning of that first series, but then they just took over. And of course, at the end, when they had the game of all games, the closeout games, it was just unreal. I mean, it looked like that was a fluke, but then it wasn't a fluke when they did it again, back to back against Philadelphia. And they just look like they're just the team to beat in the East. They're a team to beat in the East right now. And when I heard Stephen A. say that, he believes that they're going to when they won that last game like that in the first round, he believes they're going to the NBA Finals. I'm like, man, is it
good segue? Good segue, unless Brian wants to add something to it.
I think we make it. Sure.
Big question.
All I gotta say is that they had one without OG and Iwobi last night too. So think about that. They had a player down. One of their starters down. As far as everybody hyping up New York Knicks, you got to realize the two teams that they played beforehand. Atlanta, you want to give them credit. They had a good, they started coasting at the end of the regular season. Yeah, they're not a really good. They didn't really a good team either. And the 76ers, 76ers are a shell themselves, and Embiid's not helping them out at all. Anyway, he's actually
How are they a
slowing them
shell of
down.
themselves? They just beat the number two. They beat the number two team, and they came back from
Well, maybe the
3-1
Celtics
down
ain't that
3-1.
good either.
Nah, I disagree with that. I don't know. I just think every dog has his day. I don't think I look. You know me. I don't cut no corners. I don't say nothing. I think when Detroit faces the Knicks, they're going to be facing a formidable team. Let's just put it that way. That's what I see. That's what the optics show me. I'm not saying that they play garbage teams because again, the Celtics
I don't say they play
actually.
garbage teams either because obviously they're not garbage because they're in the playoffs. The point is the competition on one side of the grid is a little bit less than the other side of the grid. Do you think that New York would have took care of Orlando in 4 games? No, the hell they wouldn't because
I don't know,
Orlando
brother.
is a
I
good
don't know.
defense.
I don't know. I just hard for me to say. I mean, they were the number 8 seed, and y'all went 7 games. So
Right.
that's
Well,
just
they also had players coming back that weren't playing the whole year. So
yeah. I mean, look. We can talk about this a long time, but I'm just telling you, I'm not. I'm not trying to put your team down or anything like that. I think they're good. I think they're really good. But I think right now, and I'm again just from my own eyes and my own opinion, the team in the East to beat is the New York Knicks. And I thought they were going to get they were going to get challenged by Philadelphia, and I was wrong. So I just think I got to give credit where credit is due because they look like they're on point.
we'll see. That's all I got to say. Anyway, just real quick for the I'm just not impressed with the Knicks. I'm sorry, Jack. I know that I know Brooklyn's your team, but
That sounds like a
just not
homer
impressed.
statement there, sir. That sounds like a homer
Maybe.
statement.
And I really don't care at this point. I don't care at this point because they whooped their behind the whole season. So I'm not even caring about all that. So I can be the homer all I want. I can't. I don't have a choice, right? Because I'm in Detroit. I'm in Detroit, so I gotta do that. Anyway, just real quick before we get to this, the questions. In the NHL. Yesterday, the Canadians beat the Sabres 5-1 to even that series. That's an interesting series to watch, by the way. I don't even know who I really want to win that series because I like both teams. The Golden Knights beat the Ducks 6-2 to take a 2-1 lead. So that's where you stand at with the NHL playoffs. And we're going to get right to our next question here. Our first question for the day, which goes into what we're talking about with Stephen A. Smith. Should ESPN have a full-time Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith reunion? I'm going to give this question to Jack because, I think Stephen A. Smith is his guy.
No, Stephen A. Smith isn't my guy. I mean, I like listening to Stephen A. Smith. I like him a lot more than Skip Bayless. I'm not a Skip Bayless fan at all. I think there's a difference between the two. I don't think Stephen A. Smith is mean-spirited at all in what he does. I really don't. I think Skip Bayless is. We even had when we had Jim Jeffcoat on this podcast, he remembered Skip Bayless when he was at Dallas. So he remembered him very well because Jeffcoat played for the Cowboys, and he said Skip's a bad guy. That was Jeffcoat's opinion, that Skip's a bad guy. And he strikes me as the type of guy who will do basically anything to advance his career. I mean, there have to be certain boundaries, and I can kind of understand that in a sense. That's why, and I'm going to make a comment, even though going a little off the rails, about John Sterling, the great Yankee radio broadcaster who just passed away. And he was my favorite radio broadcast of all time. I thought Sterling was phenomenal. I loved listening to him on the telecast, but he had a talk show in the 70s, okay? 1970s. And he was super rude to people, super rude, because he was trying to advance his career. And when he finally got to a good place, John Sterling maybe changed. Maybe he evolved as a person. He certainly apparently treated people differently because you get to where you want to get sometimes and you're happy. But on the way there, there's certain boundaries you shouldn't cross, I feel, no matter what. Okay? And I think Skip, crosses those boundaries and he does it, all the time. I read Stephen A. Smith's book when it came out, and Stephen A. Smith talked about his relationship with Skip Bayless. Skip Bayless apparently was extremely loyal to Stephen A. when Stephen A. was on the way up. He stood by him. And Stephen A. is returning the loyalty. He figures, wow, this guy had my back when I really needed him. And he did it out of friendship. He put himself on the line for me. So kudos to Skip for showing that type of character to Stephen A. And Stephen A. is now trying to reciprocate it. Him and Skip Bayless at one point were very successful. Then they went their own ways. Stephen A. was with Max Kellerman. I mean, they were successful too, ratings-wise. And after Stephen A. split up with, with Max, I kind of wondered, what's Stephen A. doing? He has a whole host of people he's doing the show with. And to me, it's lost its identity. Not that his supporting cast isn't good. They're good. But it doesn't have an identity. I think you're best with a 2-3-man booth that's consistent all the time. And say what you want about Skip. Him and Stephen A. together would form a dynamic duo going forward. They would. And I don't know what I watch it the same way, because I don't know how much I can stomach a Skip Bayless. That's the thing. But with that said, a lot of other people can. So yeah, I think ESPN would be better served if they just focused on this dynamic duo and had them work together. And I think it would be much better than what they have now on First Take.
So better than what they have right now on First Take, and where before this last episode, or last episode they had when Skip Bayless came on, this was the highest quarter that they've had since, I think, 2024, in regards to being the #1 rated show on not just ESPN, but any show in that slot, in that segment.
Mm-hmm.
First Take is there without Skip Bayless. Don't get me wrong. 2012 to 2016, those two guys were a dynamic duo, as you so eloquently spoke about them, those two. And I get what you're saying of Skip Bayless being the heel, and I think everybody loved to hate the heel. He did his job. He did his job in regards to antagonizing. He played the role of the antagonist, the heel. Like in wrestling, you have the face and you have the heel. Stephen A. Smith was the face, and Skip Bayless was the heel, and it worked. That being said, first of all, one's a little bit older than the other. I think looking at them now, Skip is old now, man. I'm not saying that you can't do anything at an older age. I just think maybe that ship has sailed. I mean, because why are you going to try to fix something that isn't broke? Even if you do have a panel of multiple different people on the show, it's still riding a wave of success. Or are you going to bring it back by just having those two trying to revisit something old that you had and eventually it went away? Like you said, those guys are friends. I agree. And I agree that he wanted him on just as a guest show. And don't get me wrong, they probably were testing the waters to see what it would be like. I agree with that.
Yeah,
they were probably testing the waters.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree that likely happened. But in my opinion, will it be enough to supersede what they're already doing right now? And I think not. I think you need young, fresh blood in there, and you need somebody to play the antagonist. And it's probably hadn't found that person. Max Kellerman was probably the closest, but Max was a nice guy. Max wasn't like, he wasn't the guy that it seemed like Stephen A. became the Skip Bayless version, and Max was just the guy that just debated. He came there with sound debates and retorts. Facts. Was able to with facts, and he was able to come to and of course I think Stephen A. didn't like that, and so Max got the boot. But with that being said, you just got to find somebody close to Skip's, and I guess they have not, and I know they have not, because every person that I see on the show, I mean, it's more comical. It seems like it's more of a comical thing, but and like you said, I would agree to this as well, that in the past, Skip has had run-ins with players like Terrell Owens, with Jalen Rose, with Richard Sherman. Those things, but that brought
Shannon
great
Sharp,
ratings.
doing the show
Yeah.
with him on Fox.
But Shannon wasn't the type to be like the antagonist guy. Skip was the guy. Yeah, Skip. I mean, yes, you're right. When he's on Fox, he was that guy. He played that role, and he knew what sells. Is he that type of person in real life? I don't know. I don't know him like that. But in reality, this is what they wanted for TV because the ratings, it brings ratings. People love to see a hero, and they love to see a villain, and they want to see the hero take down the villain. So they're gonna watch the show, and Skip played that role well. I just don't see it right now. It looks when I watched him on these past few segments that I saw, they brought up, and again they brought up the same thing. LeBron James. That's the subject of every discussion, and that's going to die soon because LeBron James is going to retire soon.
It's thought-provoking. Yet LeBron Skip is number 9 on his all-time list, and he listed it.
That's the antagonist part he's playing. But I mean, LeBron is not. He's going to be gone. So I'm looking in the future. I'm like, how is this going to work again when the main subject matter that you talk about is going to be gone?
Well,
and they're probably still going to talk about it
for a couple of years. You don't worry about it past that.
Yeah. And then this is where a lot of people are going to lose a lot of money because this is how they make their bread and butter in the media by talking about LeBron James and being the antagonist of LeBron James, which is funny to me. And so because your career is about to be short if you don't find something else to talk about.
I just want to mention James Bryan, the tweet LeBron James put out a couple of months ago. They had dinner together, Stephen A. and Skip Bayless. And there was a picture of them smiling together. LeBron put down something, I'm paraphrasing, 5% dinner, 95% me. What they were talking about, and I was cracking up.
I mean, it's probably true. What are we going to talk about? Yes. I mean, that's, I guess at this point, LeBron, like I think he was in an interview or something. No, he had questions with Dave McManaman. And it was fair. I mean, the questions that he had, he understood.
The reunion, I think they would be better served than what they would have now. What do you say, Brian?
Well, as to James talking about First Take and how it's so successful right now, they really don't even need an antagonist because if they're making the ratings and they're one of the best shows out there, they don't need an antagonist on there. And first of all, I think Steve Smith is doing this for Skip. And I think you made that apparent earlier too, Jack, because Skip is kind of like the fading media person, the antagonist that nobody really wants to hear from anymore anyway, because like you said, LeBron's going to be, sailing his ship off into the sunset. And what are you going to have to talk about? He can talk about Dallas Cowboys all he wants, but nobody wants, even the Cowboys, being that the personnel or the fans really don't want to hear about what he's got to say half the time. So, I mean, I think Skip is, I think what Stephen A is doing, just throwing him a bone. I don't think he should be part of that show. I don't think him and Skip should go. I think that ship has sailed. And Skip doesn't get, Skip probably gets along really good with Steve, but he's not gotten along with a lot of the co-hosts he's had before. So I don't know, man. And to what James said about Skip being older, yeah, that's going to take a toll too. I don't think he's going to have the full force of how old is Skip anyway? He's like 70,
something like that.
Yeah, but then but the thing with Skip, he's not as relevant maybe as he once was with his show off the air. And Stephen A kind of wants to keep him relevant. Now it's his turn to help his friend. He's in a position, and it says a lot for Stephen A showing this type of loyalty to try to bring his friend back into the fold to see what he could do for him. But I just feel as good as ESPN's ratings might be right now, it can only last so long. Okay, eventually the ratings fade. You want to get ahead of the curve. Look, Stephen A and Max Kellerman were number 1 in the ratings, but Stephen A felt they were going stale. Max didn't feel that way. Max was deeply hurt about it. I had a private conversation with Max about, with the show, and he was pretty, I can't reveal what he said, but he wasn't happy with what went down. I'm not giving anything that's a scoop here. You guys would know that. The public would know that. But Stephen A. said he's all about winning. That's what he's about. And
of course he is.
Yeah.
This is the guy that brags about Jordan being number one. And look, he is winning, regardless of who he may have stepped on or how he got to where he is. He's winning, and at some point, everybody who wins, you're going to fall. I mean, when you get to the mountaintop, the only way you can go is down at some point. And I mean, you know, he built a little bit of an empire there, but the empires, as we all know with history, they all do fall, which I'm scared for living in America right now, but that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, but thanks, Rick. But the thing about it, you're right. You make a good point, James. I think they were testing the waters, bringing Skip on to see how it would go. Skip tends to antagonize people, and I'm sure there's some executives at ESPN who don't want him there because they don't like his personality. Maybe they had a bad experience with him. So he's kind of bringing Skip back gently to see how they would get along, how it might work out. But sometimes you got to remember the slogan, be careful what you wish for. Does Stephen A. really himself, would he really welcome a full-time reunion with Skip? I'm not sure. I'm just not sure. Maybe he would, because Stephen A. himself, this is my opinion, is a little less relevant than he maybe should be on his own show because he's sharing it with a few other people. If he could go one-to-one, I think you become more relevant. You become more of a star. You have more of an impact. I mean, it's like Stephen A's playing point guard on the show now. He's not scoring. He's like running the offense.
Let me say this. When Rick brought up that age, that solidified it for me at 74. You can't be on this show and on ESPN as an antagonist. And I mean, again, you got to look at your viewership, who's watching. The young people, they don't like this kind of thing anymore. And, you know, it's just when you're that type of person and you're 74 too, or so you're an old person, now you look like an old curmudgeon. I don't want to watch you, you know, being like this.
The
old man on the porch.
You can't look like you're a bitter old man on there. I agree completely. But Skip has been that way his whole career. He just has to be consistent. That's what people know.
Yeah, absolutely. It worked. But when the time ended for both shows, I mean, you begin to see it begin to wane. It began to wane, and then it brought him down to his own podcast, but which is not as popular as Stephen A. Smith's podcast. It's not as popular as Shannon Sharp's podcast.
But it's nostalgia. People would love to see Mike and the Mad Dog because they remember the run they had years ago. It's so hard to recapture the old magic that you once had. For
sure.
That's the bigger problem. Can you recapture what you once had? If you can, people remember the glory days, but normally you can't recapture it because situations change.
Most time nostalgia is just that. It's a short segment when you brought to the good old days, and then you realize where you are and you move on.
But I think it's worth a shot because I think with the ESPN format now, Stephen A. would be better served one-to-one with Skip Bayless and them going at it. Then if it doesn't work out, you move on and you get Stephen A. another partner or whatever.
I say no. What do you say, Brian? And we move to the next question after this.
Yeah, Stephen A. I think Stephen A. is the guy driving the ESPN car right now. So ESPN is kind of letting him nurture Skip for a while. And I think Skip's only capacity, I don't think there'll be a one-on-one. I think Skip's capacity will be on that show. If he comes on that show, and that'll be it, because he's doing enough right now. He feels he's doing enough for Skip. Skip's got to take that reign and carry on. Stephen A. is opening that door for him. Like, look, dude, this is your comeback. This is your farewell tour. Come back here and do your thing. But he's not going to, force his career to minimize because he's with Skip. And Skip's burned too many bridges, first of all, in the media. So, you don't want that when you're at the top of your game. You don't want somebody dragging you down. And no matter how good of a friend you are, okay, you got to look out for your career, not his career, because he's had a career. I just think that yeah, you're right. I wouldn't have both of them together in one show. Just them two. I'd bring him in with what he has right now in First Take. That's about the limit that I would do. All right. Next good question. Remember Stephon Diggs, he had a great day in court. He was found not guilty of any of the things that were said by his chef. I put that in terms chef because, there could have been all kinds of stuff cooking in that whole relationship. But anyway, will he ever be a team's primary receiver again? Go ahead, James.
Stephon Diggs, a very mercurial player. He's obviously had some tumultuous times off the field, and he's still got some stuff going up against him. There's now an account of a man claiming that he was assaulted by him as well. Mm-hmm. And so there's all kind of stuff going on. So now you don't know if he's even going to play because there's something else in the. I'm like, this question may have come at the wrong time. I don't know. So because I answered the question before I even read that, I was like, oh wow, that okay. So, but I still think that if he's put on a team, he's going to get the bulk of the receptions and he's going to get the bulk of the balls because he's still he's still that player. He's still dominant. He showed that when he was with New England, he was the number one guy. He was the number one option. And Keyshawn Boutte was definitely an up-and-coming player, but Stephon Diggs, Drake May could rely on him. He gave him 85 receptions, 1,013 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Mind you, he didn't do well in the Super Bowl, but I think that's a bit of an outlier because the offensive line let down Drake May more so than the wide receivers did. So the ball, as a receiver, you can only do what the quarterback is going to do for you is throw the ball to you. And so, with that being said, there are a number of teams who needs a number one option on their team, and they might not be great teams like New England, but there are definitely some teams that will give him a job. And supposedly he's in talks with Green Bay. Instantly, he becomes the number one receiver in Green Bay, even with Christian Watson there. I think that Stephon Diggs will play in the slot. And he'll get the bulk of the receptions there. And that guy for third down you're looking for is not going to be Christian Watson. It's going to be Stephon Diggs. Can he stay clean off the field? That's the question. That's the big question there. But when you have talent that can get you somewhere, regardless of what it is, if you got problems off the field, these guys, for whatever reason, history has shown they are willing to overlook the problems that you have off the field as long as you can produce. And I still think he's going to be 33 in November. I still think that he can produce at a relatively moderate to high rate. And I think he will make a team better than what they were if he were on it. And
well, answer the question, James. Will Stephon?
I said yes.
Yes. Okay.
I said yes. He would. Yeah, he would.
Yeah, I say no because there are a number of factors. You're in your early 30s. That doesn't necessarily prohibit you from being a team's primary receiver. That's if you've been that team's primary receiver for a number of years and you continue to be with them and continue to perform. But to just enter and come to a new team when you're in your 30s and take over as a main receiver, that's hard. I mean, if you want an example, look at Davante Adams. Davante Adams is a similar receiver to Stephon Diggs, maybe marginally better than Stephon Diggs as a receiver. And Davante Adams wasn't quite the number one receiver, the places he seemed to be going. After he left the Packers, he went to the Raiders, he was number one. That was the plan. It didn't work out with his old college quarterback, Derek Carr. But then the other stops, with the Jets and even with the Rams, Davante Adams wasn't quite the number one receiver, even though he's a very valuable commodity to them. The thing with Stephon Diggs, is he capable of being the number one receiver? Yeah, he is capable. I agree with you, James. I got to believe he still can perform at a very high level like a number one receiver maybe even he might even be as good as he's ever been, arguably, even though I think probably at his age he's maybe a little less than what he was, chances are. But he's got baggage. Look, I believe the verdict. It came in not guilty. What happened, it shouldn't be held against him. It shouldn't be held against him what happened. Anyone could get accused, and once you get accused of something, it's damaging even if you're not guilty because people have it in their head. But Stefon Diggs has baggage. It starts adding up the trail from when he left the Minnesota Vikings, other places he's went to. I know he had a nice day at New England. He was a real team player. There was no problems there. But why isn't he back with New England then, if that's the case? I mean, why didn't they try to work it out? We hear all this A.J. Brown talk. Stefon Diggs reportedly loved it in New England. Why couldn't they work something out? He was at Buffalo before that. And why would Buffalo, who badly needs a top receiver, why would they want to move on from Stefon Diggs, who's better than anyone they have as a receiver? Yet there were reports him and Josh Allen weren't on the same page. And believe me, if you're Buffalo Bill, you don't want to mess with Josh Allen. You do not want to mess with Josh Allen because your receiver, any other player, you're going to lose that battle with Josh Allen. Josh Allen is on a pedestal. With the amount of power he holds there. Yet Stefon Diggs seemed to mess with them like, oh, get me the darn ball. And Josh Allen didn't say it publicly. His attitude was, shut up, Stefon, I'm running the offense. Will anyone want to deal with the baggage that Stefon Diggs has? You mentioned, James, I wasn't aware of it. A guy came out and now he's accusing Stefon Diggs of something else. Is it worth a distraction? Is any team going to even put him on the roster? Maybe that should be a better question. And if they do put him on the roster, he's going to have to be very humble wherever he goes. Now, is he good enough to be put on a roster? Absolutely, without question. Is he good enough to be the number one receiver? I believe so. But they're just going to want him as a complimentary receiver. If my New York teams, if the Jets pick him up, he's going to be number 2 to Garrett Wilson without question. The Giants pick him up, he's going to be number 2 to Malik Nabers. How many teams are going to want to make him the centerpiece, meaning him being a primary receiver? I don't think any of them. I don't see any of them. I don't see him being given that opportunity. It's only 50-50 to me that a team is going to want to put him even on the roster because of the various baggage he has.
I don't know. I just think, I'm going to say this, I'm going to B go. I just think that his primary range, like with Davante Adams, the slot is where they're dominant because they're not the fastest guys. They're not the most, but they know how to contort their bodies. They know angles, they know range, catch radius. It's so much better than most players. And that's a quarterback's best friend next to a tight end if you don't have a lot of great receivers, X's and Z's on the field. And so I just think that him as a slot, he'd be dominant for anybody. And I can see why Green Bay's talking to him. I mean, because again, they got rid of 2 receivers, Dontavius Wicks, and I forgot the other guy's name, who they let go, went away. But they need somebody. They definitely need somebody. And I know Green Bay is definitely a team. Good morning, Liz. I know Green Bay is definitely a team that likes to have their locker room clean, but who maybe the coach is on a hot seat this year. You never know. They haven't got to the Super Bowl with the coach yet. And when they had Rodgers, they got to a couple of NFC championships, and that was about it. So and they've been down ever since with Jordan Love. So they got to put some people around him, and I think that he'll probably that'd be a ideal landing spot for him. Will it be successful? I don't know. I think so, but with this ongoing stuff off the field, who knows? But I still think that the way the NFL runs, they're going to play a guy as long as he has.
Jay, but you're going a little off the rails. I'm talking about number 1 receiver, not just being on the team and being a go-to guy. I'm talking about the number one receiver
And
on
I'm
that
telling
team.
you, I mentioned, I'm not going off the rails. I told you, I said it earlier
Okay.
in Green Bay,
So
he'd
it's
be the
Green
number
Bay.
one guy over Christian
Okay.
Watson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll put it to you like this: he could be a number one guy on teams, on a few teams. The problem is those teams aren't the greatest teams either. He could go to Miami, be a number one receiver. He can get that payday. He can go to Green. I mean, Green Bay is a decent team, and they never really have a number one receiver anyway. They haven't had a number one receiver in a while since Devontae. Actually, they are always shifting through all kinds of receivers, so that might be a stability issue for Green Bay. But with Stefan, like Rick pointed out earlier, that he has a shelf life with the team. He'll be engrossed in this team for maybe a year or two, and like with New England, went to a Super Bowl. He was focused. He played really good ball with New England, and just like Buffalo, when he got to Buffalo, he played really good ball with Buffalo for a couple of years. But it seems like he loses his. He gets bored, and when he gets bored, that's when he starts acting a nut. And I think this is what people have to see if they do get him on the team, regardless if he's going to be a starting receiver or not. They need to understand the baggage that's coming along with that. Hey, sign to a 1-year contract. After 1 year, we don't know what's going to happen. So,
but I mean, again, going back to the question, will he ever be a team's primary receiver again? If he's in Green Bay, would he be the primary receiver there? Yeah,
depending
he
on
would.
the team.
And whether now how long it will be a primary receiver, again, I agree with what Rick says there. We don't know. But if he goes there this year, at this point, this stage, all the receivers are set on different teams that need a number one receiver guy, he would definitely be that.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's really. That's the other thing too. That Liz brings up a good point about the leadership. He's not a really good leader. He's more. I mean, he goes out there and does his job, but like I said, again, it's something that's like a boredom issue with him. It's like he gets there, he gets to a team, and like maybe after the first or second year, he loses like his focus on stuff, and he just does dumb stuff after that, and then they get rid of him because he's acting crazy, being a diva. So, I mean, it is what you get with Stefan is what you get with Stefan. So if you can get a good year out of him, like if Green Bay, gets him to be a primary receiver, they're going to get a good year out of him, at least a good year out of him as a starting receiver. So, that's a chance you take. Yeah, like you're right. He could be a starting receiver. Like I said, he can't be like Rams. No, he ain't going to be a starting receiver on the Rams if they got him. Minnesota. They got 200 damn receivers, so he's never going to be a starter on that one. So, like I said, it depends on the team. Yeah. All right. Should the Boston Celtics make Jaylen Brown available in trade talks? Here we go with this. All right, Jack.
The answer is yes. Not because he can't get along with Jason Tatum. Reportedly, they do get along, that they're not feuding, but you could kind of sense there's maybe a little bit of a rivalry there, even though I'm sure they get along. And they did win a championship together, so they can win together. They've proven it. And it's not that Jaylen Brown wants to leave the Celtics. He's not a troublemaker. I don't think he's a malcontent. So this is a very unusual situation. You wouldn't be moving on from Jaylen Brown because you feel pressure to do so. You could very comfortably keep running it back with Jaylen Brown, just pay him his money, and he's happy to be a Celtic the rest of his career. And Jason Tatum, I'm sure, isn't going to object. Maybe there's a little bit of an edge because when the Celtics won the NBA championship, it was Jaylen Brown who was finals MVP and not Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum is more popular there. He's always going to be a gentle step ahead of Jaylen Brown. That's just the way it is. I mean, and I can't explain why, because Jaylen Brown has seemed to be a pretty good citizen. He complained about the officiating and everything after they lost to Philadelphia. He said that that was his most satisfying year of his career outside of winning the championship. And he was taken to task for it because they got eliminated in the playoffs. How can you be satisfied and say it's the most fun year of your career? But people don't get it. Nothing was expected of the Celtics, and Brown played at an MVP caliber level. But the Celtics have to get a little better. You look at their team, they run it back with what they have. They're going to be highly competitive. They'll have a chance of coming out of the East next year with what they have now. I don't think they will, but they might. They're good enough. It just depends how they play next year. But if you really want to improve the team, you got to make a move. And what's your big chip? It's Jaylen Brown. I mean, you can look towards the Milwaukee Bucks even and include a package, Jaylen Brown and extras, and maybe even talk about Giannis. At least that would be a good discussion the Bucks would have with you about it. I'm just ideas, because there are going to be teams out there that are going to be looking to move on from star players if they can get a star player in return. And Jaylen Brown's a very appealing player to get. Don't tell me he's not. I mean, let's say even if you're the Knicks, if the Knicks lose in the next round of the playoffs and they feel they need to make a move, and let's say the Celtics call up, we want Karl Anthony Towns and we want Josh Hart, and we're going to give you Jaylen Brown. Who knows? I mean, I'm just throwing a trade idea. It's not wild. Maybe the Knicks do it. Maybe the Celtics.
You're the wildest man I know, Jack. You're the wildest man I know.
No, who would it be a bad deal for?
I don't know.
You don't know exactly. It's worth discussing. We don't know who that deal might favor. It's worth a discussion. That's what I'm trying to say. Jaylen Brown is a big chip. The Celtics have to move on from their championship. They still can win another championship. They're good enough. They need to shore their team up front. That's what the problem is. Up front. They don't have a physical presence up front. And they could address that in a Jaylen Brown deal. They could address that really big time if they wanted to. And so the answer is yes. They should make him available in trade talks if they can make the right deal. He's not untouchable like Jason Tatum. That's what I'm saying.
Maybe there should be a trade talk, but maybe we're talking about the wrong player here. Maybe we should be talking about the guy who tore his Achilles, and we're talking about Jason Tatum. Maybe we should have trade talks for him. That would be ludicrous to think, right? In Boston. I don't know. Jaylen Brown showed that he can be a number one guy. I mean, when Jason Tatum was down, he took this team, and he took this team with Derek White and a bunch of ragtag group of players, and they were the second overall team in the league. He averaged 28.7, 6 rebounds and 7 assists. He was dominant. He was in contention for MVP. He was in contention for MVP. And I agree, Rick. I think they should keep them together. That's what I was going to say. I don't think if we had a trade, I would say I wouldn't pick Jaylen Brown. I would maybe go the other route if I had to think about it. But in reality, I'm not trading anybody because I want both these players together. You already showed that you had magic when you could win, but you're missing a dynamic of a Al Horford, a Marcus Smart. You're missing a Drew Holiday. Those were key factors as to why they won a championship. Having other players, you got other guys, and I think the Stephen A. Smith, Mike Wilbon discussion when they were talking about Jaylen, talking about this is his favorite year. I listened for context. When I heard the post interview of the post series when they lost, that's not what he said. What he said was, this is one of my favorite years that I've had, meaning it wasn't more than a championship. He didn't say that. That's not what he said. What he said is, this is one of my favorite. And okay, mind you, if he's saying it because he got an opportunity to show, let me finish. He got an opportunity to showcase who he was as a player. Who wouldn't say that? I mean, who wouldn't say that? But at the same time, he also mentioned his other players. He also mentioned other players that were on the team. He got to see the growth of everybody on that team. and they still were second in the league without their guy, the superstar that was on the floor.
Mhm.
So he's okay with saying that. I don't have a problem with him saying that. So with that being said, he's 29. If there's an issue, I think if there's going to be an issue, there might be an issue with second apron. Now, those are the things we don't talk about. They're in a second hard apron for salary cap right now. So they're on the cusp of like having to maybe get rid of one of their guys or trade one of their guys, maybe Derek White. But I would not trade Jaylen Brown. And Jaylen Brown in July, he's up for extending his contract, meaning by July 2026, they can offer him 2 more years to add to his already current contract, which he's already served, I think, 3. He served 2 years of it already, 2023.
Right.
So I guess so 3 years, and he's probably 150 million for 2 years, 71 million. They want to keep him. I don't think they're going to trade him, and I don't think they should trade him. So it definitely is brutal. But I think they're going to come down. They're going to figure out ways to be able to keep those 2 players. But they're not going to trade him. And he's. I will say to your favorite, Jack, he's 29. By the end of his 5-year contract, if they add 2 more years on, he'll be 34. Will he still be that same Jaylen Brown? I don't know. But I think he's great right now, and he's great with the system he's in right now under Coach Mazzulla and Jason Tatum on the team, and Derek White.
I would rather not trade him. Don't misunderstand me, but I'm all ears with the right deal, because a team like the Timberwolves could call and they can offer, let's say, Rudy Gobert, McDaniels, whatever. And, and that might be intriguing to put those guys on the same team in Boston, with Jason Tatum. And you can mix and match certain possibilities of that. They really are.
I look at it like this. I mean, if the Boston Celtics are going to trade anybody, it would be Jaylen Brown. But again, it's got to be an epic trade. It can't be something that's no. I'm not trading Jaylen Brown for Daniels or hell no. You have to have a player that's equal to him, because Jaylen Brown is going to make any team that he goes to even better.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a difference what team it is. He's just going to go and make it better. That's the long and the short of it. So he needs to be replaced. If you're going to trade him, it's got to be an epic trade. Either you're getting a lot of draft picks, which I don't care about draft picks. I want a good player. I want a good player in place of him. I want a real good player, somebody that's on his level or better. So you have to really challenge that trade. I think the thing with Tatum is you mentioned earlier, James, that you would trade him, but the dude has an Achilles injury. That's always something that you got to look at when you start trading. People don't. This is why I say Jaylen Brown would go before Tatum, not just because he's a Boston Celtic thing, but it's because he really has not as much of a trade value as Jaylen Brown at this point in his career, because Jaylen Brown doesn't have that injury issue that Tatum does. And Tatum is a great player, don't get me wrong, but when it comes to that, I think you should keep them both together too. And like Liz says, unless somebody comes out there with an epic trade for Jaylen Brown, you know what I'm saying, then you keep those 2 together and you just try to make it work. Bless you. You try to make it work. With get a big guy. They need a big guy in the middle. So, you got to have an epic trade for that to happen to me. Anyway, that will conclude our question and answer situation. Today we have the, as we mentioned before, we have the the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Pistons playing, and the Spurs and the Lakers are playing today too, aren't they? I mean, not the Spurs, the Lakers and the OKC are playing, right? So OKC is up 3-0, or is this
2-0?
Oh, there's 2-0. Yeah, because they're going to the
Lakers. Yeah. Well, counted as 3. I mean, even though they go back to LA. Yeah, they are like gumbo cooked. It's all kind of stuff in there.
You don't think the Lakers could pull out a win?
No.
They've got a lot of
Because-
fun. You know what I like? The way they surrounded the officials after the game. The Lakers are still battling, but they did. If they were going to beat OKC on the road, it would have been game 2, and SGA was way off form.
Such a
Yeah,
language.
look, I just think that the Lakers gave them their best. They threw a couple of great, like Jack, this is your I guess metaphor. They threw their best punches, but they just wasn't good enough. I mean, the OKC just outlasted them. They waited to the end. They rope-a-doped them and knocked them out. I mean, 18 points. I mean, the game was good up until maybe the 8th minute of the fourth quarter, down to 8 minutes. Yeah, they were down by 4 points, and then all of a sudden, the train just fell off the tracks. Went off the tracks. It just started throwing more turnovers. It's just not enough. That team got way too much talent on that team. You can see they're outmatched. Clearly.
The bench scored 50 points.
Yeah,
if a bench is scoring 50 points, that's just nasty. You can't have that in the front court that they got. You can't.
I got to tell you, we were just talking about Jaylen Brown hypothetically. There are going to be some very, big-time moves in the NBA this offseason. I can sense it. Teams have to make a move. Like the Lakers, for one. Is LeBron going to come back? Is Austin Reeves, I could see being traded, and they could get some value for him. I can't see so many of these teams running it back. Even a team like the Houston Rockets, are they going to stand pat the way they went out against, the Lakers? I mean, they could rationalize, well, Kevin Durant was out. And a few other teams as well. I mean, the Cavaliers, if they lose to the Pistons, unless LeBron comes over to Cleveland, are they going to run it back with the same cast? I was reading something what Pat Riley was saying on a book on LeBron when he tried to get LeBron to come back to the Heat. And this really stuck to me, and I never gave it any thought before. We keep looking at the amount of championships teams have won. Let's look at the amount of times these teams didn't win championships as great as they were, but they would run it back and eventually win the championship again. And maybe that's the attitude these teams should have. Maybe that's the attitude the Knicks should have. If the Knicks lose, let's say hypothetically, in the next round to the Pistons or maybe the Cavs, let's call it the Pistons, the way it looks at this moment, who's had their number during the regular season, maybe the Knicks should just run it back with the same crew next year. Why make a deal? Just keep running it back, and eventually you get a breakthrough. It happened with the Denver Nuggets a few years ago, right? They had the breakthrough.
Yeah, well, you got to have somebody like a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on the team. If the Knicks, I think the Knicks have Jalen Brunson, but I think he's better with a Karl-Anthony Towns on the team. I don't know. Like you said, to have them on the same team, but to me, they haven't. Let's get to the championship first before we start saying that. I mean, I don't know. Let's get there first. It'd be different if it was like you say, and then LeBron James is a cheat code. He's an anomaly. He went to 8 straight finals, but we're talking about LeBron James here. So it's unfair to put other teams in that category. Speaking on Pat Riley, and then Pat Riley and Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade when they were there, that's a whole different type of ball game when we're talking about a certain team. But you got to have somebody at least in the ilk of close to LeBron James. And to me, it's somebody like a Wemby or a SGA. I don't think Jalen Brunson's in that. He's like a tier below. He's a tier below to me. You got to have somebody on that team to have that sort of comment about that. I don't think the Knicks are there. So if the Knicks decided to make a trade I wouldn't be mad at them if they did something like that.
Well, that'll conclude our show for today. Do join us tomorrow at 8 for the Sunday Morning Sports Podcast. Go out and get Jack's book, by the way. Get his book. I've been promoting that a little bit.
I got it.
There you go, right there.
I got it.
There you go. And also go out there and get Dr. Paul Summendinger's book too with the Yankees. I think you got that one. There you go. There you go. The greatest New York Yankees. So there's 2 guys on our platform doing really well with their books. So let's keep it up for them. And everybody have a great rest of your weekend. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Good night.